And more. We're joined now by Eran Tal, founder and CEO of Wולטה Solar. Eran, when we talk about an energy war, what does that mean in practical terms, especially for Israel right now?
Good evening, Nicole. So practically, we're in a new phase of this war, which is quite apparent. It is an energy war. And the first thing we all see is that oil is now at 115 and gas is up 30%. And it is obvious that the nanosecond, the first instant that this war began and oil started rising and the gas started rising, it immediately affects, our cost of living, our cost of fueling. If you're not running on EVs, then obviously you'd feel it, in the pump in just a heartbeat. And what it brings us is to what we call an Iran effect, which means we see kind of a push towards solar energy because it is obvious that if oil is the battlefield today, then solar is a kind of a shield to it. Because as you think of it, when you produce your energy from the sun using solar panels, and if you're smart enough also to couple it with storage systems so that you can also use that excess of energy produced in the day also at night when the sun is not shining, then you're basically quite immune to this energy war of that affects the oil and gas prices. So that's in a nutshell.
Is this something that Israel is especially vulnerable to, or is this something that the rest of the world should be paying attention to some of these lessons as well?
Well, obviously, I think everyone is impacted by it. You see what's going on in ranging from the United States towards Europe. It seems like everyone is quite panicking with this Hormuz, choke, in which about a fifth of the world's fuel, oil and gas are running through on a regular day. And think about how quite madness is it that oil can actually determine our fate. It can determine the fate of the war. At how long would it take to solve this issue, and that alternatively, if much more of the energy production, both in Israel and in other parts of the world, would not have been, dependent upon the oil and the gas and other forms of fossil fuel, maybe we could have ended the war sooner. Maybe we could have avoided some of the wars. And the amazing thing about this Iran effect or this push towards solar is, we are experiencing here at Wóltha, we are experiencing skyrocketing demand for solar, and it only makes sense. By the way, we've been experiencing these in the last 2.5 years. Every time there was this kind of an escalation, we just announced our latest financial statements of 2025, and we've hit many records. And the point I'm mentioning it is because it is only reasonable now, and more people are getting it, be it households on their rooftops or municipalities or factories and commercial and industrial buildings, that if you want to be immune both from the instability of the grid or the energy infrastructure when it's centralized, like we've just experienced this evening, this shrapnel that fell upon the Haifa's refinery in Bazan. Luckily, it was just a shrapnel and just a little bit of smoke, sunburn, not major blackout or anything in that fashion. But we do understand how fragile the centralized energy infrastructure is when you are reliant on burning fossil fuels. So as I said, if you want to push towards a more resilient, not only in words, but in action, resilience both in the energy and in the economy, because it affects immediately how how high will be the electricity you're buying, or how will it be for you to fuel your car if it's not electric? So,
but what would it actually take in practice for even a country like Israel? You mentioned the Haifa oil refinery that much of the country relies upon. If this was actually to be implemented in practice, what type of timeline are we talking about before a country could actually give up its oil, its natural resources, and rely on solar? This is not a short-term solution. This is more of a long-term.
It is, but I think, as you've alluded to, we could shorten the timeline. And I think we should approach it both bottom-up and grassroots, kind of top-down. Bottom-up is through regulation, pushing those targets towards renewables higher and higher, and with a shorter time span. At the moment, we're pushing towards 30% renewables by 2030, with a specific target towards residential solar rooftops of hitting 100K more houses with solar rooftops, up from about 20 to 30K. And on top of that, and we're happy it just kind of arrived after kind of a long wait. It is something that you have to do now with a new house. You have to incorporate a solar rooftop in a new house if it has a 100 square meters rooftop or more. And you also have to do it if it's a non-residential building. But I think, and this is a kind of a call, every factory, every hotel, every municipality with all of its buildings, rooftops, sports courts that can be covered with kind of a canopy, right? A solar shading and solar carports. And obviously every household needs to run and lock in on their rooftop and on their solar rooftop, because it provides them. And obviously if they combine it, if they integrate it with storage solution,
yes,
they just lock in their, the electricity prices. And they're
certainly an interesting perspective on what we could expect from the energy sites in the future. And thanks so much for being with us on I-24 News today and giving us this perspective on the future of solar as well.
Thanks a lot, Nicole, for having me.
Thank you.
Have a good one.